Hi everyone,
Ah,
welcome to the Plant Talk series. Gonna give it one more second here, a couple more seconds as people are still coming in from the waiting room.
You might need a little volume,
you might need a
Michelle.
little volume. Yeah.
You were sounding fine when we were just chatting, but now you're a little quiet.
Okay, hold on. So I wonder, is that better?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's a little better.
I'll just yell.
More flat.
All right, guys. So welcome everyone to our Winter Plant Talk series. This year we have 7 plant talks lined up. You can find all of the registration information and all of the topics that we have coming up over the next couple months over at our website, which is at plantnebraska.org. And I want to offer a special thanks to our Plant Talk series sponsor, which is JEO Consulting. So thanks very much to them. So today's topic is Great Plant Selections of 2026. We're going to have PlantNebraska Horticulture Coordinator Bob Henrickson talking about the Tree of the Year, the Shrub of the Year, and Perennial of the Year. I just have a couple little housekeeping details before we get started. So if you're not familiar with Plant Nebraska, we're a nonprofit organization with a mission to plant Nebraska for healthy people, vibrant communities, and a resilient environment. And we were formerly called Nebraska Statewide Arboretum. We recently changed our name. It was very exciting to Plant Nebraska to reflect our broad. So we have been around for 47 years, and during those decades, our mission has grown and expanded. So Plant Nebraska fits a little bit better as to what we are doing these days. We're a member organization, which means our work is funded in part by donations from people like you who value sustainable landscaping and native plants and trees and all of that good stuff. So if you are not already a member of Plant Nebraska, we would love for you to consider becoming one, and you can find out more about our different membership levels and benefits at our website, plantnebraska.org. Toby just dropped that link into the chat so you can find it there. Our next plant talk after today is next Thursday, so a week from today, January 22nd. And we'll be talking about species diversity, selection, and proper planting practices for Western Nebraska. We don't want our Western Nebraska friends to feel neglected, so we'll be focusing in a little bit more on them next week. So that should be interesting. We have a couple guest speakers who will be presenting next Thursday. Just a reminder, we do record all of our plant talks and we send out a link to the recording after, so by the end of the day today. So if you ever can't make one in person, you can register and then you can watch it later. And then one little reminder to keep your microphone on mute for now. If you have questions for Bob, we'll have a little bit of time at the end. You can either put them in the chat and we will keep track of them, or at the end, when we open it up to questions, you can just pop your microphone on and ask Bob right then. So with that, I will let Bob Henrickson take it from here. He's going to share his screen and get going on the Great Plants of Nebraska.
See that?
Yep, we can see it. Thanks, Bob.
Buddy, happy, energized, and all pumped for 2026. Just a reminder, we've had, I think, 6 days in January here above 60. Is that unprecedented? Is that crazy? And if you're from Nebraska, the old saying goes, well, if we have a nice day in January, we're going to pay for it down the road, right? We'll see. Well, I'm excited to talk to you today about the 2026 Great Plants for the Great Plains. It's a program, a plant promotion program that was started here way back in 1998. And you can see a complete cumulative list of the great plants on our website, correct, Michelle?
Yes, that is true, I will drop that link into the chat, for the.
Okay, very good. Yeah, because say you're new to Nebraska or you're just new to gardening or you're just like looking, man, what's a great list to start from? I mean, it goes back to 1998, so it's a big list of plants. So it lists trees, shrubs, perennials, and then we had two categories, ornamental grasses, which includes prairie grasses, of course. And gosh, what was it? Conifers of the year. So we almost ran out of grasses and conifers to talk about. So, but you can see a great list of both of those on our website, plantnebraska.org. Well, good to see some familiar names. I don't have time to go through and say hi to everybody, so I'll just say hi to all of you right now. And just a reminder, well, there's the logo for the Great Plants. I think it's a great logo, you know, promoting plains proven plants for beautiful landscapes. That was what we've been doing since its inception. And this year is no exception. The 2026 Great Plants winners are the Tree of the Year, Shrub of the Year, and Perennial of the Year. And I'm not identifying, there's more of a quiz. Can you identify what they are? Well, the one I'm hugging there, probably not. That is a big pecan tree. Our tree of the year is the northern pecan. And I'm hugging this tree down where it grows naturally. This is a place called Pecan Grove down in Winfield, Kansas. Winfield is just south and east of Wichita as the crow flies. And if you know the Walnut Valley Festival, we were down there and all these people are camping in the canopy of these beautiful big pecan trees. And I'll show you where it occurs on the map. And so it's kind of cool seeing just where the pecan trees grow in the Great Plains, because everybody thinks of Texas and Georgia. Certainly they get north into Kansas. And there's proof right there. And then our shrub of the year in the middle there is the lovely berries of the American spice bush. And our perennial of the year is Culver's root. Not a very exciting name for a plant, but we'll get to Culver's root in a bit. First, I want to give a big shout out to all of you that attend Spring Affair. If you haven't heard of it, I don't know where you've been, but Spring Affair coming up this year, April 23rd to the 25th at the Sandhills Global Events Center. We hope to see you there. We're planning right now. We got the plants ordered, over 700 different kinds of plants. So we're excited to bring you Spring Affair 2026 version this year. And Michelle said we're not ordering any tornadoes. So we will be good there. And then just a quick plug for a radio program I've been hosting for the last 25 years, going into year 26. And yeah, how's it growing? It's every Wednesday, 11 till noon on our local radio station here in Lincoln, KZUM 89.3 FM. Great music, by the way. And you can tune in online anywhere in the world. Heck, you can even listen to How's It Growing if you're in Malaysia. Why not? All right, so that's every Wednesday. We are your gardening connection. All right, so why great plants? Well, we were looking to expand the palette of plant material that's currently being offered. You know, plants that deserve to be planted more, that certainly are awesome, great plants, but why aren't they finding their way into gardens? So that's kind of the impetus of the program. And the plants we chose, we want to make sure they're tough dudes, right? So they strive at more sustainable, low input landscaping is what I call it, like low water use, tough, long lived, you know, just awesome plants. So that's kind of where it came from. So let's start off talking about the tree of the year. And man, it's been a while. I know we've what we do with this is we send a list of nominees. I ask some horticulture experts in Nebraska for plants to nominate, and then members of the Nebraska Nursery and Landscape Association vote on these members or on these nominees to get candidates. And then we vote on the candidates. So the winner by the Nebraska Nursery and Landscape Association and others was the Northern Pecan. And this is a tree, I think, that literally, I mean, there's a handful in Lincoln that I know of that are bigger trees. This is one of them. This is on UNLE's campus. If you've been to the dairy store, you probably certainly walked by it, or you can view this tree. It's just a perfect tree, basically around 50 by 50 feet. And it's just west of the dairy store. So next time you get ice cream, go give this tree a hug. You'll be glad you did. But that shows you that will a pecan grow in Nebraska? So I'm going to show you a lot of pictures of where they are growing in Nebraska so you can get that confidence that maybe it'll grow where you're at as well. One thing you can do, like when you walk up and say, what tree am I looking at? A pecan has these very distinct, they're kind of glossy, the leaves, always clean, glossy looking foliage. But what a pecan has is this sickle shaped leaf, kind of like a half moon, if you will, or a crescent moon. Ash trees don't have that sickle shape, right? It looks kind of similar to an ash or lots of other trees that have this leaf pattern. But what sets pecan apart is that cool bent crescent moon pattern. And of course, you can tell a pecan when the fruit in the fall, but not everybody has seen a pecan fruiting, right? And so in the fall, I'm always watching for these husks. So the pecan is embedded within this husk, and this husk isn't very thick. Oh, maybe an eighth of an inch, very pliable or whatnot. But I tell you, once this husk starts splitting, and you can kind of see a split in there, I can walk up to them and split it with my fingers, and so can a crow, because I'm battling crows and I'm battling blue jays to get this, and of course squirrels too. So everybody and their puppy dog loves the pecan. Why is that? Because they're very nutritious fruit for wildlife. So even if you can't collect the fruit, you want it for wildlife. And just know it takes around 15 years for it to start setting fruit. So look at the fruit as an icing on the cake. You're planting this because it's a dynamite shade tree, tough, good, fast-growing shade tree. And that's what the flowers look like in the spring. They're catkins, wonderful pollinating plant for, because bees will take advantage of wind-pollinated plants as well as non-wind pollinated plants. So this one has just a nice cluster of catkin-like flowers there on the tips of the branches. And then that's my hand there. UNL has done pecan research to try to come up with varieties they knew that the pecan grows well here, but the seed didn't also often form in time before a hard frost hit. So once a hard freeze hits, the fruit is done developing and you've got a waste of time. So they were looking at earlier developing fruits, and you can see the size of those things, big fruits too, easy to crack, very tasty. That's all the things they were looking for. Those varieties are available out there, but few and far between in the trade. I generally just grow them from seed and hope for the best. But a nice plate of Nebraska grown pecan trees. How cool is that? So what we do with pecans at home is I like bourbon infused pecan and hickory nuts. So here's pecans on the right and there's hickory nuts on the left. We'll infuse them in bourbon for around 30 days and then strain it out. And then we dry those nuts and then make candied hickory and candied walnuts off of those. When you put them in the oven, the alcohol burns off and you're left with that nice, deep, rich, bourbony flavor. And then you candy them and dust them with sugar and cinnamon. Give me a break. It's 5-star. And then this here is called Rivulet. If you ever find yourself in Kentucky, make sure you stop and get some of this stuff because they won't ship. Can't order it. It's a pecan liqueur that is the best thing you'll ever have in your life. It is nutty. It is smoky. It is dynamite. Rivulet has been around for, I think, over 100 years making this product. And I have friends that have tried to duplicate Rivulet, and they said, I can't quite master it, but it's a liqueur. And the difference between that and an infusion is adding sugar. Simple as that. So that's what a pecan looks like leafing out in the spring. I think they're cool, almost like a flower when they're leafing out in the spring. And then the bark, I don't know, nothing really to write home about. It's not horribly attractive bark, but still cool as it gets to be an older, mature tree. But here you see pecan's native range. This is where it grows naturally in the world. And of course, the state tree of Texas is the pecan. And they don't call it pecan down there. They call it pecan. And so it's a tomato thing. And then, but you see where I was there in Kansas, if you see my cursor right here, there's Winfield, Kansas. So that's where I was hugging that tree. How cool is that? Basically, almost the western limits of its native range, but it gets up to the St. Joseph, Missouri area. So close enough to being native in my book. And then it follows up the Mississippi into northern Illinois. Did you ever realize that the pecan made it that far north? Well, now you do. There again, Pecan Grove in Winfield, Kansas. We'll be back. And then nice young tree. I haven't seen this pictures from a while ago, but Gary Carlson was a former curator at the Arboretum there at Midland University in Fremont, and he planted a pecan. And I just think if you look at that young tree, about a 25-foot tree, people talk about what are we going to replace our ash trees with when they all die? Pecan in my book is number one. I mean, it kind of looks like an ash tree, but better. No offense, Ash. And then get this, out in Bridgeport, Nebraska. I don't know if anybody like Chrissy or Amy's on from out west, but I would never have thought pecan would do well in Bridgeport. And if you're wondering where Bridgeport is, Google it. I mean, it's out there like between, I think, Scotts Bluff and Ogallala. So that is tough country to grow a tree, and the pecan's doing great. And she did tell me that the homeowner took the pecan out. Go figure, right? Now, it doesn't have leaves on it, but it's the only image I have. North Platte. These are two pecan trees planted on the street frontage, doing great in North Platte. And in Kearney, a 50-foot tree in Kearney, a nice summer and winter picture there for a 50-foot tree in Kearney. And get this, to produce fruit, they say you need two pecans because they have to cross-pollinate to produce fruit. Well, this guy's producing fruit and the fruit's viable, meaning it's a filled nut. Who's pollinating this tree? There's probably another tree or two in Kearney we just haven't found yet. So that's pretty cool to find it in Kearney. And our buddy Jeff Karstens, who we've had on Plant Talks before from Iowa State, he was a former intern here, and that's his daughter in the picture. He planted this tree in 1998 up in Randolph, Nebraska, because again, he wanted to see will pecans grow in Randolph. Looks like it's doing great to me. And then this lady from outside of Blair sent me this picture of a tree. It's not the greatest quality, but still, it's more for the size. There's a big pecan north of Blair, of all places. And she said they have made pies with the nuts before. And I'm like, well, who's pollinating it? Well, we don't have a second pecan. So nature finds a way. Even though you may not have a pollinator, I say still go for it. Because I've heard a number of situations where people still get fruit even though the tree's all by itself. The biggest one I know of in Lincoln is at 33rd and P Street. So next time you're driving along 33rd, if you're listening from Lincoln, there's a house that has a bunch of great trees, but that pecan is 80 feet tall at 33rd and P. The state champion, the biggest pecan we know of in the state, is down in Brownville by the, if you go to Brownville, look for the elevators, the grain elevator, and head your way down the road towards the grain elevator. You'll pass right by it. And that's Justin, our cohort, Justin Evertson, to show you the human scale of that big boy. What a piggy of a tree. And I don't see much of any storm damage on it. That's what I like about it too. It's very, very tough tree for our windy conditions. Arbor Lodge, very impressive pecans. I know of at least, I would say I've counted around a dozen pecan trees at Arbor Lodge, some more impressive than others, meaning size-wise, but this is a solid 80-foot tree as well. Is that not a gorgeous thing? And then Midtown Omaha, our cohort Graham Herbst, who's been on Plant Talks, he might even be coming up with one, I can't remember. But anyway, Midtown Omaha, great big pecan tree. Are you getting sick of seeing these big pecans? Well, then plant one yourself. That's looking up that big tree in Midtown. What an impressive tree. And then this tree is in Elmwood Park in Omaha. The fellow that the city forester was a little skeptical planting a little tree because he thought people would vandalize it. Because it was planted in 2014. You see that little picture where my cursor is. That's when it was planted, a smaller tree. And this picture was just taken last summer. So in just 9 years, 11 years, it's a 25 to 30-foot tree. So that's, in my book, a fast-growing tree. That's a good growth rate for a tree. Any faster than you're going to have breakage problems. So that's the tree of the year. I hope I convinced you. Another good place to see a pecan in the landscape is Wayne Park in Waverly. Justin Evertson has planted some. What's cool about the ones in Wayne Park by their pool is they're labeled, and he shows on the label when it was planted. So the tree was planted in '04. Why I remember that? I'm a nerd. But anyway, they're at least 50 feet, planted in '04. So do the math. That's a pretty good growth rate.
Bob,
Okay.
before
Yeah.
we move on to Spice Bush, we have a couple questions. We might as well.
Yeah, let me go to the chat here.
Yeah. So Kendra is in Kearney, and she's curious about where that pecan. I say pecan. What? I'm not even from Texas. I say pecan. I'm from New England. I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to say pecan, but Anyway, where the pecan is located in Kearney, she's interested in collecting seed from it. You know? Wait, I can't hear you, Bob. What's happening?
Michelle, mute yourself and see if that helps Bob's audio.
Okay, hold on.
Can you hear me now? All right, that was it. But yeah, it didn't like two people talking at once, Michelle. But anyway, Kendra, I don't have the address, but if you email our cohort, Justin Evertson, if you can find him with the Nebraska Forest Services website, and I'm pretty sure he has the address, or ask the city forester in Kearney. Pretty confident they would know as well, so you could email them, find out. But it's worth a look. See, now with winter time right now, I would wait until it has its leaves on it, and it's pretty summer dress, and look the tree then. But that's pretty cool. And let's see, I see a note from Mr. Fuhrer, Bob. Yeah, you planted one at North Platte at the Dodge County Arboretum tours. We were looking at it. How big is it by now, Bob? Let us know that. Oh, a neighborhood near Gretna. That's good to hear. Yeah, they just pop up here and there. I know of good sized trees in Syracuse, Unadilla. Yeah, pretty cool. Wet soil works good. Yeah, I agree. And it can tolerate some wet conditions. Certainly drought tolerant though, but yeah, it kind of grows naturally in areas along rivers. So it would make sense that it likes wet conditions, but by all means, it's not dependent on those. Incredibly adaptable tree. I just love it. What type of soil does pecan need? Yeah, Kathy, we just basically covered that. It's not picky. I mean, no tree likes to grow in basement subsoil. I'll just say that. So if you live in a new development with basement subsoil, just consider that. It's really not good for any tree, right? So do something about it. That's a whole other ballgame. All right, so I think we addressed them all right. You can just nod, Michelle. Okay. All right, so now let's move on to the shrub of the year. One of my favorite shrubs. That's what I love about the plants of the year this year. They're all some of my favorites. And this picture you're seeing here is at Cabbage Patch, which is an affiliate arboretum site of ours, a private property north of Omaha. And I was surprised to see it here. I mean, here it was growing like basically in full sun. And I thought it was something that had to grow in part shade. Now, this plant grows naturally in the edge of the woods. So I think for you that are dealing with a lot of shade in your property, or part shade, you got some bigger trees and you're trying to sneak in a shrub or two along there, spice bush is a good one for that. But just know if you don't have shade, it can work. But I would want to make sure I have it kind of a little more moist situation. It's another one that likes a little more moist, but is also drought tolerant, if that makes sense. It's drought tolerant more if it's in part shade than it is in full sun. But again, it'll surprise you. Here it was out in full sun, and I asked her, do you baby it? Do you have to water it? She goes, no, it just kind of does its thing. And I love the foliage. The foliage is I don't know, it's just lush. And it just looks lush in the landscape. And if you rub the foliage and smell it, you'll see where it gets the name spice bush. It's a very funky, spicy smell to it. And some people, certainly butterfly enthusiasts, will plant it to attract the spice bush swallowtail. The spice bush swallowtail, I think, maybe eats another plant or two. But get this, I know people that have planted spice bush, which is not quite native to Nebraska. They've planted it and the spice bush swallowtail finds it. So they've got a good sense of smell, right? But that's what the caterpillar looks like. One of the coolest caterpillars, period, is the spice bush swallowtail caterpillar. It has these big fake looking eyes to like us humans like to think, to ward off, like to make predators freak out and say, I'm not for you, right? But it's a cool thing. Okay, why are you not moving? Okay. One of the main reasons I like spice bush, though, is its fall color. A beautiful butter yellow. And you'll see this in the part shade landscape. It really stands out. So if you're a serviceberry fan, what I found is spice bush and serviceberry will color up around the same time. And serviceberry is that pumpkin orange. So picture that pumpkin orange with this. Delicious, right? Really nice fall color, even in part shade. There's the native range of American spice bush. So as you can see, not native to Nebraska, but a couple, 3 hours away, right? Central Missouri, down in the southeastern corner of Kansas. It's kind of an Ozark type plant, but you can see it extends all the way east and in north into New England. And it's not done yet. It says, wait, I got flowers, but my flowers are dinky. I mean, they're small guys, but it's the kind of star of the show in the spring because there's no leaves on it, first of all, but it's one of the first things to bloom in the spring. Now, vernal witch hazel takes that title, but spice bush is not far behind. So when we're talking sometime in April before it leaves out, cool little flowers, close up, they're like these little clusters, and each one of those individual flowers in one cluster, there might be a dozen. So for early season pollinators coming out, emerging, getting tricked into coming out, it's a good thing to plant for that. But spice bush was named for its spicy scented leaves and bark and roots, but also these berries that the female plants will produce in the fall. So they're male female plant, but I've had spice bush produce berries as a single plant too. There wasn't a male and female involved because, again, I'm sorry, it's the luck of the draw. You know, we can't sex these things out, you know, unless somebody's taking a cutting from it. But it's the luck of the draw. I say plant a grouping of 3 and you're bound to get fruit. You know, you could plant them around 4 feet apart, something like that. And the fruit you'll often get with the fall color. And that fruit will persist after the leaves drop, which is cool. And the berries are actually edible. They have a unique flavor similar to allspice. And one of the common names of this plant is Appalachian allspice because of that. So it's a mixture of allspice, orange, clove. It can be dried, ground for use as a spice. You can go online right now and order spice bush and have your own American version of allspice. Why not do it? Because you can make stuff out of it. The ground berries have a sharp nose, again, citrus zest, pine resin, black pepper. So you can use that for seasoning, but you can also make what's called a spice bush dram. And let's see, what do they always say? Oh, I think I want a wee little dram this evening, which is basically 1/8 of an ounce of alcohol. So just a little pinch. But you can make this dram. It's basically, it comes out of Jamaica using allspice berries. And in this case, we're using spice bush berries, but allspice berries and rum. And then they infuse that for around 30 days and then strain it and then make a simple syrup with brown sugar. And you got yourself your own spice bush liqueur. So I always try to find another reason for you to plant something. And if nothing else, walking by the shrub, rubbing the leaves and smelling it every day, you'll be glad you did. And the bark and leaves are also used by herbalists to this day. They have a peppery cinnamon-like seasoning used to flavor meat, brew fragrant medicinal teas, because it does have medicinal properties. Native Americans have been using spice bush for cold, cough, fever, measles for centuries. And it also has an interesting fact about it. It was associated with rich soil and easy access to the water table. So back in the day, if a surveyor was looking over your land and they saw spice bush, it was a safe bet that you were going to have a successful farm because the water table was high. It would be easy to dig a well. So they used it as an indicator plant to find out if it was a good place to make a farm. All right, we're done with spice bush. Now, hopefully you don't have a spice bush headache. All right, now for the perennial of the year. One of my all-time favorite perennials. This plant and I go back 30 years. When I used to work at the fairgrounds, that's where I cut my teeth horticulturally and really planted a lot of different stuff. And I think I ordered Culver's root, didn't know anything about it just because I was intrigued by the name. I'm like, Culver's root? Can't you come up with something better than that? Well, anyway, it's got a medicinal history too. And I didn't look it up before the talk and apologize for that, but I encourage you to. How did it get the name Culver's root? The root was used medicinally, but I don't know if Culver was some sort of doctor or whatever. But anyway, planted it at the fairgrounds, and I was impressed with how easy it was to grow, how long-lived it was, how adaptable it was. This thing could take heavy clay. I mean, I wouldn't put it in a really droughty situation, but I had planted this plant here in a display bed years ago in the 2012 drought. It didn't get any water, killed other plants, but not Culver's root. And why do I mention that? Because Culver's root is kind of a lowland species. It likes to grow in low areas more so than upland areas. So you would think it's a water hog or it needs water to survive, and it's very adaptable, very drought tolerant. But this picture shows you the flower spikes, and the spikes are just getting started. What you're seeing is this plant in bud. So I think that extends the attractiveness of the plant, meaning it's showy in bud, and you can see the flowers just getting started here at the base of these two spikes. So each one of these little white capsules is a flower. So on one spike, it might have 200 flowers. That's a whole lot of pollinator to go along, right? It's a top-notch pollinator plant. They go crazy for it. So beautiful spikes. Oh, and by the way, the scientific name, Veronicastrum, Veronica-like. It reminds me of a Veronica plant, which is a popular perennial genus, Veronica on steroids, because this plant will get 4 to 5 feet tall. So it's a great backdrop plant that's also very upright and stiff growing, so it doesn't flop. It's just a very erect plant. And a variety of pollinators will visit the flowers, and when it does finally open, the flowers are kind of give it a different texture, as you can see, kind of a fine anthers coming out of each individual flower, giving it that cool texture. And anybody who has it, please comment in the chats for others to see that, one, do you like it? And two, why have you seen it be a great pollinator plant? Because in my opinion, this plant should be in everybody's garden. What I also see with it is it's very shade tolerant. I have it at home where it probably gets 3 hours of sun. It prefers full sun, mind you, but man, it's really tolerant of shade. Won't bloom as prolifically, and mine does get a little floppy in that 3 hours of sun, but I had to have it at home. I got a lot of shade. All right, here's you see the native habitat of where it grows naturally. The Culver's root you can see is mostly in southeastern Nebraska, down along the southeastern tier counties where there's more moisture available. But it's a rare bird in the wild, meaning I would say in Nebraska it's a threatened species because, well, we've plowed up most of the prairie. It's definitely a threatened species. So we should grow it for perpetuity, if nothing else. That's what it looks like when it's emerging in the spring. I think it's a cool plant when it's emerging, coming out through the mulch. And I leave the leaves, by the way. You can see all these leaves here. I don't do wood chip mulch. I leave the leaves. And this plant just comes right up through those leaves every spring. I may do a light raking so it's not a foot deep, but still. And then when the plant is coming up, I think the foliage is very attractive. This is probably, I didn't look, but a mid-May shot you're seeing here, what it looks like in mid-May. What I like about it is the whorled nature of the foliage wrapping itself around the stem, and then it kind of will like a candelabra have these series of whorled foliage moving right up the stem, giving it a really nice texture to it. Yeah, there's a close-up of those whorled leaves. Really cool, attractive foliage. So even when it's not in bloom, the plant's really sweet. There's a close-up of the flowers you can see. Very intricate, cool flowers. And that small pollinator you see on there, the small fly, that's what I like about these small flowers. The small native bees, which tend to get overlooked, and us helping them really go crazy for this plant. Not just the bumblebees and the butterflies, but the small native bees as well. Really lovely plant to use in a variety of different combinations. Here you see just with a coleus. So lots of different combination possibilities with this plant. And I'm just hoping you say, I gotta have it. I mean, look with it with purple coneflower. Horrible, huh? And there it is with a Heliopsis. Just that because it's white, it goes with anything, right? There's a variety out there in the trade called Albo Roseo, and this is the one we carry at Spring Affair. And people will look at this and they say, yeah, but it's a nativar. It's not a true native. I'm telling you, it was selected, found in the wild, first of all. Second of all, it had a little bit light pink color to it. So they put the name Albo Roseo, which I'm sorry, I would have probably called it Pink Charm rather than Albo Roseo, but it is what it is. But anyway, it's just a little slight pink blush to it, as you can see. It still attracts pollinators. And look at the pollen or the anthers. They're kind of pink too. You won't get that on the anthers of the typical species. Again, but found in the wild. It wasn't produced in some lab. It's not some hybrid. It's just as valuable as any native version of it. It's just a selection. And then the seed heads, I got to get some better pictures of the seed heads this winter. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, Michelle. We got to get that done. But the seed heads, I think, are very attractive all winter long. They hold up well, and they're this nice chocolate brown color, so really attractive when backlit by other things. Cool seed heads, and you can use them and harvest them and use them for container arrangements if that trips your trigger. Okay, let's see. Let's catch up on the chat. Okay, what soil things? Oh, the flowers are a citrusy fragrance. I have not stuck my nose in them. Thanks for pointing that out. And I'm assuming you're talking about Kenya. Are you talking about the Culver's root? Let's see. I read that it's named after a doctor with the last name Culver. Okay, very good. Again, I'm not going to look up its medicinal properties right now, but I'm telling you, it has a long history of medicinal use. The stems of mine started dying and browning late summer for some reason, but I enjoy the pollinators using it. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's lots of variables that can go into the why of it, Kenny. I just know my experience with it, Ben, is very, very forgiving, adaptable plant. Stronghold in a native plant garden. I love the world leaves. Huge pollinator magnet. Mine gets morning sun. I'm trying it in a new rain garden. Mine is more white. Very good. Hey, you guys, and get this, Culver's root can be divided. It's a clump forming plant. So if you want to produce more, you can dig up that clump in the early spring and quarter it. And then now you have 4 Culver's roots. All right. For 10 years, foundation, nasty clay, east facing, comes back every year. Bumblebees love it. And that's what I wanted to hear, Lisa, because can it take that nasty clay soil? Because it's a lowland species, clay soils tend to have low oxygen and, it can kill plants more than help them. But a plant that grows naturally in lowland areas can take that low oxygen. That's why they really perform in heavy, nasty subsoil clay. Okay, guys, let me check the time. Where are we at here? All right, I got 20 minutes. Perfect. I'm going to try to move quickly through these. So that's our plants of the year. Yeah.
Hold on one sec. There's 2 more questions, and then I'll mute myself. So, how often do you have to water? Well, actually, 3 questions now. How tall is mature plant? And do birds like to eat the seed heads?
Okay, good question. So how tall did I hear? 4 to 5 feet. But one year, what I did, you know how you can pinch plants back to manipulate the bloom and get them to bloom shorter? Just out of fun and curiosity, I did that to Culver's root one year. I cut it back by 50%, say in, I don't know, around Father's Day, late June, and reduced its height. I mean, the thing bloomed at 2 feet high. That was kind of cool to see. Although, in other words, if you want it to stay shorter, you can manipulate the bloom. But I say let it get up to 5 feet. It's just a stunning backdrop plant for that. But if height's an issue for you, you can pitch it back. Watering it, well, I'm a firm believer that, and you don't have to follow my practice per se, but I'm a believer in if I have to water you after you're established, I don't want anything to do with you. Did I just say that? Because I'm like, if I have to continually baby a plant after it's established, and it dies on me, I'm going to choose a different plant. Sorry, Culver's root, but I've been pleasantly surprised. That's why I brought up the 2012 drought. I thought that would kill it. I thought, but I can't water it because how will I know? And it came back with flying colors after the 2012 drought. And if you remember that drought, it was a bad one. So get it established and try to back off on having to water it. Because if you continue to water it, then you'll never know if it can make it without the water, right? And then we're a slave to watering it, and then you become a turfy, always watering and never guessing. Okay, does that hit them all, Michelle? I think. Oh, the birds and the seed heads. Yes. That's a good question. I have never observed it or read it. They're small little seeds. I doubt it. They are dinky little seeds. It wouldn't be worth a bird's time to do it, but what do I know? I would just say Google it and just remember what you're looking up is on the internet. Don't believe everything you read. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I have to say about that. But you can certainly ornamental. In other words, if you're harvesting them to bring them as an ornamental arrangement indoors, don't feel like you're stealing from nature. Let's put it that way. All right. Now I wanted to give a quick shout out to some plants that were released through the Great Plants program, meaning these were new to horticulture through the Great Plants program. And some plants I didn't even put on here because they're not available anymore, which is sad. There's a balm out there called Prairie Gypsy. I don't know where people can get it anymore. So this picture you're looking at here is a viburnum called Copper Ridges. This one was selected by Gary Ladman. He owned Classic Viburnums with his wife Sue, and they retired recently. But Gary selected this one, called it Copper Ridges, because he thought the leaves were so textured it looked like a potato chip leaf. And the copper color is the emerging foliage in the spring. And Todd, thanks to our friends at Fowler Landscape, Todd, if you're listening, you and your great crew there. We're going to be taking cuttings from this from Todd, and I know Great Plains Nursery is working on it as well. We're going to try to bring this plant back and get it in your hands. So be patient. You're going to want this plant. But I wanted to give it a quick shout out. But this one is still available, and I don't want it to go away because it's got a great story to tell. This one will be available at Spring Affair, and we always have it at our PlantNebraska sales too. Every year I'm going to carry it as long as I'm here. And this is one called Pink Clouds Hibiscus. It's a hardy hibiscus. And this was actually the mother plant. This is in Clarkson at Bluebird Nursery. And Harlan wrote out hundreds of seedlings. He collected seed from the Fleming's Hardy strain and to see if there was a diamond in the rough. And Pink Clouds stood out amongst all others. And it stood out because it was the longest blooming. I mean, this thing bloomed up until frost, which is crazy for a hibiscus. Most hardy hibiscus are done by late August. This thing, now it's not a loud bloom between, say, September 1 till frost, but it'll bloom sparingly here and there. Its best bloom time is the heat of summer. That's what I love about hibiscus. We're talking August heat, just when you're sick of summer. Here comes Pink Clouds. And Harlan, who selected it, says it'll stop traffic at 55 miles an hour because they want to know what it is. And in case you're wondering, the hardy hibiscus is indeed a native plant, folks. It's called the rose mallow. It's a hibiscus that's native to the southeastern United States, as you can see, but it gets up into Kansas and into Missouri as well. Perfectly hardy in Nebraska. And plate-sized flowers on it. Yeah, so there it kind of tells the story of Harlan introducing it. Just an awesome plant. And because it's another common name for it is the marsh mallow, meaning it's native to swampy areas. Now it doesn't need wet to do well. It does great in average garden soil conditions, but the plant you see here doing so well is actually in a bioswale. So for those of you planting up a bioswale, heck, put this showstopper in the bioswale or the rain garden. It'll just really perform well for you. And you can kind of see some pokey things coming up through here. I planted a Korean feather wheatgrass at the base of this. Because hibiscus take their sweet time greening up in the spring, most people think they're dead because they'll wait until, what, the third week in May to finally emerge. Why not put something around that emerging foliage that's going to come up early? And Korean feather wheatgrass does that, so it hides those bare stems, if you will, and then the hibiscus grows up through it. And then when the hibiscus is blooming, I can have the inflorescence of that Korean feather wheatgrass blooming with it. So it's a lovely combo, and you can do a variety of different grasses. This one's also going to be at Spring Affair, and I'm telling you, people, you need to know this and love this plant. This picture is a row of them out in North Platte. Dale Lindgren planted these, and Dale Lindgren was a penstemon breeder, but Dale had gotten this plant from Harlan Hammernick too. Harlan collected this on a trip to Mongolia and brought it back. And hexapetala means it has 6 petals on the flowers, right? But I've seen the flowers with 7 as well. But anyway, it kind of looks like a sweet autumn clematis, but the flowers are 3 times the size. I mean, the flowers are 1.5 inches across, and they're very fragrant. And it grows like a bush. It's not a climber. What you're seeing is a 3 by 3 foot bush, tough as nails. I mean, this is in North Platte. This is sandy soil you guys see here. Dale doesn't irrigate, and they're just shrugging their shoulders at any sort of droughty condition. Really cool plant, 3 by 3 feet. There's a close-up of the flowers, and I just want to stick my nose in it because I miss that fragrance. It's a, if you've ever smelled sweet autumn clematis, very similar. But this guy blooms in late May into June rather than in the fall. So it's a late spring bloomer, if you will. So yeah, Harlan discovered it on an expedition to Mongolia, and I think it's one of the best ones he's brought back. When the foliage is merging in the spring, this picture doesn't do it justice, but the foliage is really cool when it's emerging in the spring. And then there you see the flower buds before they open, I think adding another season of interest to this plant too. And get this, it's not done yet. The seed heads, I'm telling you, are showier than the flowers. I don't have a picture of the whole row of seed heads from North Platte, but I thought the thing was in bloom when I saw it one year out there in his beds. And they're not there anymore, unfortunately. But before this plant goes away, you guys, I'm telling you, spring affair this year, because I can't guarantee it's going to be around 5 years from now. If we, the gardener, don't do something about it, we create the demand, right? All right, this one is in demand, thankfully. This one Harlan Hammernick discovered as well. This is like an ode to Harlan. Harlan discovered this in western Oklahoma, the Wichita Mountains goldenrod, one of my all-time favorite perennials, because we're all after helping pollinators. And this guy, man, is the cat's meow when it comes to pollinator attractiveness. The flower buds, I think, are just as attractive as the flowers themselves. It adds another season of interest. And if you think about the name goldenrod, it doesn't say golden spray, but that's what we call a typical look of a goldenrod, like the Canada goldenrod, the weedy one, you know, that it's a spray of flowers versus a rod like a gay feather. This one, picture this planted with a gay feather. I have not seen that in a garden combination yet. Why won't somebody do that for me so I can come and take a picture of it? So get on that, okay, Bob? Do it in North Bend. Here it is at the Sunken Gardens, well, the Strolling Gardens, across from the Sunken Gardens. So it's just a very well-behaved goldenrod, because goldenrod has a bad reputation as being weedy in the garden. Well, Wichita Mountains is not weedy. In fact, I would welcome some seedlings from Wichita Mountains. It might seed here and there, but it was discovered by Harlan at Sunshine Nursery. And Sunshine Nursery, he's not a wildflower guy. Steve Biebrick owns Sunshine Nursery in Clinton, Oklahoma. If you look on the map, that's western Oklahoma. And last time I checked, western Oklahoma is a tough place for any human or plant to exist. And there it is growing naturally in the Wichita Mountains, the oldest mountain range in North America, if not one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world. And here's this plant that's been growing there, and Biebrick dug it out of the hills, he said, and he planted it out there at his nursery. And Harlan said, "What's that goldenrod?" He said, "I don't know. I dug it up out of the mountains." And Harlan took it back to Bluebird and gave it a name, and away we go. It's a seed strain goldenrod from western Oklahoma. So there again, you might call it a nativar, but it was discovered in nature. It's just as valuable. Sometimes these things are given names for marketability, you guys, because the common name of this, I think, is old field goldenrod. But there's a close-up of the flowers. I'm seeing some chats, Michelle. I'll get to them. Don't fret none. Or should I answer them as we go? Give me a nod. And kind of a shrug. We'll get to you.
It's mostly comments. It's mostly
Okay,
comments.
very good. That's what we want to see going on the chat, is you guys chatting amongst yourselves so you don't have to listen to me. Okay, but get this, it's not done yet. After it blooms, I think the seed heads are incredibly showy. And there you see in this picture on the left, that's snow in the background. Those seed heads will remain and not bust apart easily past Christmas, if not longer. You can actually cut those and use, I'll make outdoor container arrangements in the fall. I'll make like a little mini prairie in my ceramic containers outdoors. And this one always finds a place in those ceramic containers with ornamental grasses. Okay, so don't let Wichita Mountains go away either. Here's another one that was a past Great Plants release. This will also be available at Spring Affair. The Smoky Hills Prairie Skullcap is one of the cutest little sexy plants you'll ever see. Each flower, I swear, the big man upstairs came along with an equal sign and dotted each one with it and say, "I hereby proclaim you're going to have an equal sign on your flower." Well, we call those nectar guides, and as humans do, because it's like, "Oh, are you looking for the nectar, Mr. B? It's this way. There's your landing pad," and the nectar is in this hooded part of the flower. Oh, that's kind of a poor picture. Sorry about that. I'll move on. But it's just kind of basically a 15-inch high, 18-inch wide plant. And it grows naturally in dry upland prairies. So this guy wants good drainage, well-drained soil, high and dry, I like to say. It doesn't need ever to be watered once it's established. Don't baby this plant because you'll likely kill it. Think of this combined with Missouri primrose and dwarf blue indigo. I've seen those three plants together in nature, and you can, mimic that look in the garden. It was brought to horticulture from Jim Locklear. He was a former director here at the statewide arboretum, or I'm sorry, at Plant Nebraska. Well, when it was statewide arboretum, that's when Jim was the director. And prior to that, Jim worked down at an arboretum in Hessian, Kansas called Dick Arboretum of the Plains. And a good place for you to visit if you haven't been there. And you can get in free with your reciprocal NSA membership. Right, Toby? They can get into Dick Arboretum for the Plains free. And anyway, Jim brought this plant and seed of this plant and waved it under Harlan's nose, and the rest is history. Once Harlan gets a hold of something, he gets it in the trade. And you can go to High Country Gardens if you're familiar with that mail order company down in Santa Fe, New Mexico. He has tried a number of seed sources and has said to me, David Salmon, who's no longer with us, said to me personally that there's not a better seed source out there. So again, a nativar name, but it was found in nature. It's a seed strain. So don't let those names scare you. So there you see the nectar guides leading that bee into where the nectar is down in that. What sets Scutellarias apart, that genus, is that hooded flower that you see right there. What a cool plant, huh? You want this plant, don't you? And I know people that have sandy, gritty soil, like pure sand. That thing will grow in pure sand. It's so tough. Okay, dwarf spiderwort. Let's see. I think we maybe have one more. Dwarf spiderwort. This one was brought to horticulture by the statewide arboretum as well. Wasn't really anywhere to be found. Bluebird Nursery carries it. It will be at Spring Affair. Yes, you need to get this plant. It only blooms at around 3 to 6 inches high early in the spring, often in early May, late April, early May, depending on the year. And the individual flowers, I've measured them once, they're like 2 inches across. Big flower for such a small little dainty plant. And for our early emerging pollinators, it's hands down. Think pasque flower, think prairie smoke, and then think dwarf spiderwort, and think prairie phlox. Those four, because people often ask, what can I plant that's native that blooms early in the spring? Because that list is pretty limited to what we can get available to us, right? But add this to your list. A lot of people have bad names to say about spiderworts, and spiderworts, because they seed around too much, they're floppy. This guy blooms in the spring and then goes dormant. And just be aware that you can see how the leaves are kind of getting a little distinction now, but the leaves will actually, you're going to think it's dying. Well, it's just going dormant. You give daffodils a break, right? When they go dormant, you give naked ladies a break when they go dormant. You can give this plant a break too. It's just escaping the heat of summer. And then it's reemerging in the fall, a very hairy little fellow. So it's a hairy plant. And plants that have hairs on them tend to be extremely drought tolerant because they're holding moisture in. Here's where you find it in nature. This is, I actually took this picture of the big rocks down there. This is along near Marysville, Kansas. If you've ever been down along that highway, I can't remember the name of the highway, south of Beatrice, just across the border into Marysville, Kansas. You can see on the map here, it's native range. That white county that you see, that's just into Nebraska. But in Marysville, Kansas, where we originally collected seed, is the far northern limits of its native range. And there you see that same picture at the base of this plant, or this rock, was a dwarf spiderwort. How cool is that? What I like about it is you don't know what you're getting. Harlan wanted to call it Jolly Rancher spiderwort because, it's a variety of flavors and colors, right? But if you look, I mean, they're subtle, but the colors are different, right? And then, so you could get any four of these colors, or it might even be a different color than this, right? That's what's fun about it is, I'm sorry if you have to have pink and it comes in purple. I feel sorry for you if you care, but for me, I'm just like, man, celebrate it. What a cool, tough plant. This will be at Spring Affair. The Prairie Snow Shelley Pentstemon. This is a Penstemon grandiflorus, which is the shell leaf penstemon. And Dale Lindgren, who is a plant breeder out at North Platte, who has retired, but Dale brought us Husker red penstemon amongst, oh gosh, dark towers, prairie dusk. But prairie snow never really took off. And I don't know why. I took this picture many years ago and the flowers almost look fake. They were so perfect. I mean, like glistening white. And Dale found this white plant blooming in amongst a sea of shell leaf penstemon near Dunning, Nebraska. And if you look where Dunning's at, it's by Broken Bow. I mean, it's in the Sandhills. So it's a Nebraska bred, born and raised penstemon that needs to be planted more. I mean, and what I like about shell leaf is the flowers kind of cluster themselves and situate themselves right on top of the leaves. And it's kind of hard to tell in this picture. Let's see, I'll go back. Oh, poo, I don't have the, well, this one you can see the clam-shaped leaf that wraps itself around the stem. That's where it gets the name shell leaf penstemon, because somebody thought that looked like a clamshell. Well, Dale also introduced this one, the Prairie Splendor penstemon, which will also be at Spring Affair. It was a seed strain introduced by Dale Lindgren as well, and he planted the Cobia penstemon, which is a Nebraska native, which a Texas native penstemon, the Triflorus. And he basically let them cross with each other, collected the seed, wrote out the seedlings, and saw what he would get because he wanted to get darker colors because penstemon Cobia is white. He wanted to get some pinks and see if he can get some purples in there. And by golly, he got it. And Cobia penstemon is noted as the largest flower of all the penstemons, which is a big genus, folks. But Prairie Splendor never has really taken off hard in the trade either. Why is that? Because we kill it with kindness. This is a dryland species. Here I have it planted with prairie drop seed. And the reason I did that is because the soil can get splashed with rainfall and get foliar diseases. Penstemons are notorious for that. So why not plant it with the grass so when the rain falls, the raindrops aren't hitting the soil and splashing that fungus onto the leaves. And I remember when Dale saw that, he kind of raised his eyebrows and said, I like that idea because penstemons tend to be short-lived. Well, this penstemon had been in the ground for 5 years, and I attribute that to because it was planted next to its buddy, prairie dropseed. And then finally, this one, I'll end with this one. Harlan Hammernick came back with this one. This was a kind of a collaboration with Dale and Harlan. Such a story to tell. It was named War Axe. If you go down the interstate, you'll see a sign that says War Axe Wildlife Management Area near Grand Island. The former director of the Department of Roads, Dick Gray, told Harlan he saw this grouping of penstemons by the rest area or by War Axe, and they're all different colors. What the heck's going on? So Harlan had to go check it out, flagged these plants, and went back and collected seed. And then he wrote out the seedlings, and here's the seedlings that you're seeing that he wrote out. I mean, it was a kaleidoscope of colors. So again, you could buy a War Axe and it comes white. I'm sorry, it is what it is. But you're going to be able to tell because as the plant's emerging and those stems are reddish, you'll know you're going to get a darker flower. If the stem is green, it's likely going to be white. I think that's kind of cool. So now you know where War Axe came from, but the colors are just like candy, right? Delicious. The one on the left is the Backyard Farmer Garden, and the one on the right is my former display beds that I had. So that is what we're going to end with, right? We're at 59. I didn't do bad. Do we have time for some chats?
Yeah, there's really just one question from Kathy. Well, there's a couple more. So, Wichita Mountain Goldenrod, is it Solidago nemoralis? Which Solidago is it?
Yeah, great question. It's funny. Yeah, I'm seeing Kathy. I'm seeing it now. I think so, Kathy. That's what I've kind of keyed it out to because if you start looking, Nebraska has 8 goldenrods native to our state, right? And there's 150 nationwide. It's an endemic to North America. But Europeans discovered goldenrod back when, they were taking plants back to Europe way back in the day. And Europeans fell in love with them. And now they're goldenrod has become a weed in Europe. Go figure. Anyway, there's some selections out there. Golden Fleece was a German cultivar. Golden Baby, which will be at Spring Affair, German cultivar. That doesn't mean the plant came from native to Germany. It was brought over from North America, and then they selected it, and now North America is buying it back from Germany. Go figure. Yes, but Nemorales and Kathy, I'm not going to look it up. Somebody else could, but oh, and great question. Does that clematis make seedlings? I'm going to address that one too. Um, yeah, the Nemorales old field goldenrod, I think, or is it gray leafed goldenrod, something like that. Definitely not exciting. But I don't think Harlan ever keyed it out to see what species it was. But that's my nearest guess. And then the clematis makes seedlings. You know, I have not seen it. Certainly, Sweet Autumn Clematis was a popular clematis back in the 80s and 90s, and now we have all learned I would not plant that plant anymore, the Sweet Autumn, because it is aggressive and pretty invasive. I have not seen this Mongolian snowflakes produce seedlings. That said, I haven't been monitoring the plant for the past 20 years either. I would just say it's definitely not a reseeder like a Sweet Autumn, but it's definitely one to say, okay, I'm going to plant you, then I'm going to keep my eye out for seedlings because I still want to learn, because it's from Mongolia, are we making a mistake in planting it? I think it's definitely worth taking that risk. Yeah, Kathy, they're just going to list it as Talladega Wichita Mountains because when it was originally released, it was never keyed out, so they just always listed as such. Okay.
Yeah, that about does it for the questions. I don't see any others in the chat, and we are just a couple minutes past 1, so we will let folks get back to their day. But thank you, Bob, for all your insights. That was super interesting. I always think, oh, I know the great plants, and then you just give so much more information that I did not know anything about. So appreciate all of your wisdom there. And thanks to everyone for coming today to our plant talk. We have 6 more through the season. So come back next week. And if you haven't registered, you can do that and find out all of the topics at plantnebraska.org. So thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you soon.
I didn't know they could